He keeps saying that there was only a shadow of himself in the ring. You know, I think he's been part shadow for quite some time. And hopefully he'll get it all together and bring the body that cast the shadow into the ring this time. I'm just hoping that nobody knocks Spinks out before we get to him. Because Spinks, in his last several fights, seems to be a lot of wear with Spinks. He seems to be faltering. And I just hope that nobody hits him, you know, and really does him any damage before we get to him.
He stood as one of Philadelphia's most revered boxing trainers, a soft-spoken man whose career spanned over 4 decades, shaping the destinies of some of the city's greatest fighters. His death created an irreplaceable void in the sport, yet his influence endures as his teachings echo throughout Philadelphia's gyms to this day. Born in 1921, Quenzell McCall was the eldest of 3 brothers born to Clarence and Ruby McCall. He began boxing at the age of 14, learning his trade at the Chris Perry Gym in Philadelphia. McCall found success early in the sport, winning the Philadelphia Daily News Golden Gloves in 1939 when he upset the highly favored Frankie Donato. Described by one reporter as one of the cleverest, shiftiest young fighters on the scene, he turned professional in 1942. McCall won 4 of 7 fights while supporting himself as a laborer in a sheet metal plant. He had to cancel a fight later on when his index finger was severed in an on-the-job accident. His boxing career came to an abrupt end when a sledgehammer struck him in the face while he was working in a Navy yard. "Had I not been a fighter, I would have been killed," McCall said. "I rolled away just enough. The handle hit my shoulder and most of the force had been broken. Still, I was bleeding like a pig, and I had a broken nose. The doctors advised me not to fight anymore." McCall initially took a job with the city of Philadelphia, but was persuaded by a friend to venture into training fighters, feeling it would be a disservice not to share his extensive knowledge. In 1942, McCall started training boxers, primarily from the Strawberry Mansion section of Philadelphia. McCall quickly earned a reputation as a soft-spoken man who commanded respect due to the depth of his expertise. However, entering the profession marked the beginning of McCall's witnessing of ring tragedies. In 1947, tragedy struck when one of McCall's friends, Newton Smith, succumbed to injuries sustained in a fight with Sam Baruti. It was McCall who accompanied Smith in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, a poignant moment that underscored the harsh realities that awaited McCall within the boxing world. 3 years later, McCall trained Percy Basset, who gave Sonny Boy West a savage beating.
He's got Basset groggy. The round is almost over. Second round here at St. Nick's Arena. It's a cute little trick when you can do it. Is clear-eyed, but his nose is bleeding. Basset found the range and began to pummel away. About 15 seconds ago of the third round. Bassett's great asset tonight is swarming all over West at close range, as you see. West must have had some cotton wadding in his nose to prevent nosebleed after having a nosebleed in the third round. It was jarred out by a blow in the first minute of this round. Records show that Sonny Boy West has some punching power. The knockout record run up by Percy Basset attests to the fact that he has plenty of punching power. West went rocking on that one. In the fifth round, it's been a belting scrap here at St. Nick's Arena tonight between Percy Basset, hard-punching featherweight, and Sonny Boy West of Washington, D.C. The end of the fifth round, and certainly this must be a great crowd pleaser, as you hear from the cheers here at St. Nicholas Arena. And certainly you too, seeing these blows very clearly, must be enjoying the changing styles, especially with Basset punching. Round number 6. When Basset discovered that Sonny Boy West was going to fight him a different style than he anticipated, he went to long range, though he is primarily a close-range batter. Start at halfback for the Stonewalls, a top Sandlot football club in Washington, D.C. The next lightest man on the club was 160 pounds. All right, round number 7. It's Bassett's punching power that has caused West to blink his left eye. There he goes. Clean shot. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and he can't get up, and Percy Basset is very happy, as you see, banging his head on the canvas after being hit with that right on the chin. Of course, that eye was in bad condition. He couldn't see the blow coming, and so the right sent him to the floor. He banged his head as he went down, was counted out, desperately attempting to recover his senses and get up, but of course his physical being was in no position to answer his mental charge. So Dr. Nardiello has come in to look at him. Here's the announcement by Johnny Addy.
West was rushed to the hospital, but died the following night on the operating room. Meanwhile, Basset was the first of McCall's championship-level fighters, but he was denied a title shot as the trainer refused to go along with mobster Frankie Carbo in order to get a chance at the championship. Basset later won the interim title with champion Sandy Sadler away in the Army. Basset held the interim belt for a year before losing it to Teddy Davis in 1954. In 1955, Basset was forced to retire because of a detached retina. Now owning the Champs Gym in Philadelphia, which was on the second floor of a car repair shop, McCall began training a 15-year-old Len Matthews, who became one of his prized pupils. McCall said of Matthews, "One day in the gym, he asked me for a dime. I asked him teasingly if he had found himself a girl. He said, 'Of course not. I want to buy a bag of potato chips.' Fighters got to eat, don't they?" I was shocked. He admitted he hadn't eaten for a day, and all he was asking for was a pack of potato chips. It was then that Len Matthews became more to me than just another kid who wanted to be a fighter. McCall became the teenage fighter's surrogate father as he and his wife took Matthews in to live with them. Partnering with manager Anthony Graziano, the duo guided Matthews to become an amateur sensation in Philadelphia who turned pro with much fanfare. Matthews didn't disappoint, quickly becoming a crowd favorite. After he pummeled veteran Orlando Zulueta, he became one of the hottest fighters in boxing. The magazine Boxing Illustrated dubbed him as boxing's $1 million baby. McCall had the foresight to insist that Matthews set up a trust fund. He reminded his protege about stories of fighters, good ones, who ended their careers destitute. But as the money rolled in, McCall and Matthews' co-manager, Tony Graziano, began to have a conflict. Matthews began to chafe at McCall's disciplinary ways as he struggled to a draw with veteran Ray Lancaster before losing a controversial decision to Paul Armstead. Matthews avenged the draw with a second-round knockout and rewarded himself with a brand-new expensive car. The purchase angered McCall, who believed that luxury items made a fighter lazy. Graziano overruled McCall, and the friction in the camp carried over into Matthews' big match with Puerto Rican phenom Carlos Ortiz.
In round 6, Ortiz stays with his man. Both men have a lot of respect for each other. Matthews trying to win a big one. Ortiz with his eyes on Joe Brown's lightweight title. Ortiz gets home a left-right combination, and Matthews is hurt. Now it's Ortiz staying after his man. Ortiz pins Matthews against the ropes. It's Ortiz banging home sharp, accurate combinations. But Matthews refuses to give up, showing great stamina and courage. Matthews, fighting from instinct, won't go down. Ortiz continues the attack. The referee finally calls a halt, and Carlos Ortiz wins a big one over Len Matthews.
Shortly after the loss, Matthews' manager Graziano replaced McCall with Johnny Hutchinson. Hutchinson was not the disciplinarian McCall was, and Matthews now indulged in a lavish lifestyle and began losing. He suffered a beating against Paolo Rossi so severe that the New York Athletic Commission requested that Matthews undergo an electric brainwave test before being allowed to compete again. After getting stopped by Kenny Lane, Matthews was now being urged to retire by manager Graziano and the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission. Now at rock bottom, Matthews approached McCall's son, Barry, about the prospect of reconciling with the trainer. McCall was non-committal until his wife hastened the reunion. "I pride myself on my ability to make my own decisions," McCall said. "But my wife has her own subtle, little ways of influencing me." She said, "Remember Quen, he was only a boy." Len Matthews said, "If Quen had told me off and turned his back on me, I couldn't have blamed him. I accepted his strength when I needed it, but then I got to where I wanted my own way about things, and I resented his strength. He's no yes man. He lets you know what he thinks." McCall accepted his former protege back, but the dues at the Champs Gym remained at $5. Matthews didn't have it. Lesson number 1, McCall told Matthews, "You've grossed over $150,000 in purses since you were 19, and now you don't have $5 for the gym? Now remember, if you're lucky enough to find what you lost here, don't let it happen again." Matthews had come full circle. He was a caddy before his big payday started and now returned to his old job. McCall once again pumped him full of vitamins, prescribing a special iron supplement. Matthews defied the odds and naysayers, going on a 6-fight win streak before losing to Jose Veliz. But in 1964, Matthews was forced to retire just before his 25th birthday, as he developed cataracts in both eyes. Reporter Jack McKinney wrote that while Matthews rode a rocket to the top, McCall also had fighters that had to make it on a streetcar named Desire. One such fighter was Jerry Finnerty, who came to Philadelphia from Ireland. He was so bad we tried to discourage him, McCall said. He was sitting on this bench, lacing up his new ring shoes and looking nervous as a cat. When he got up to get his gloves tied on, he took one step forward and fell flat on his face. He laced his shoes together. Finnerty was a 5th-grade dropout who gave boxing a go, going on a 5-fight win streak with McCall before fading out of the sport. McCall developed his own unique methods and techniques, as most of his fighters became specialists in body punching. There was a misconception about what causes lasting damage to a fighter, McCall said. Unless there is brain damage, headshots do not take away as much as body punches. Punches to the kidneys, the liver. Coming up with innovative ways to address problems with fighters became his calling card. He was hired to train heavyweight contender Leotis Martin, who suffered from flat feet. McCall built up Martin's arches by stuffing bandage and adhesive tape in his shoes. The fix allowed Martin to move faster on his feet, as well as set faster to punch. After defeating Sonny Liston in 1969, Martin gave credit for the victory to McCall and manager Penny Shafter. "I fought the fight, but they told me how to do it," Martin said. McCall noticed Liston was tired after the 7th round. "That was when we told him, go get him," McCall said. "I told Lee to move in a little more so we could throw that right hand over Liston's jab." But Martin's time with McCall was cut short, as like Percy Basset before him, he suffered from a detached retina and was forced to retire. Perhaps McCall's most celebrated fighter was Benny Briscoe. McCall led Briscoe to a shot at the middleweight title against Carlos Monzon, where Bad Benny staggered the champion in the 9th round, but lost a decision. Briscoe remained with McCall for several years, adopting a more aggressive fighting style where he brutalized opponents with body punches. But after suffering consecutive defeats to Rodrigo Valdez and Emil Griffith, McCall felt that Briscoe had nothing left in the tank, bowing out of his training duties. He remained principled, as after training Olympic gold medalist Michael Spinks for 4 fights, McCall left after a dispute over money. Ironically, he began training a fighter that would become Spinks' main rival in the light heavyweight division, Dwight Braxton. Initially, McCall refused to train Braxton, as the fighter was with another coach, and he wasn't all that impressed with him to begin with. "I thought about Hank Griffin," McCall said. "He was an old-time fight guy, and I remember he told me when I first started training fighters, never mess with one unless you're going to treat him like a future champion of the world." After coming to an agreement with Braxton's trainer Wesley Mouzon, McCall began polishing the fighter's skills, transforming the raw slugger into an intelligent counterpuncher. He instructed Braxton to jab a little after his opponent does, a split second. Soon the opponent quit jabbing because he was tired of getting countered and hit. McCall guided Braxton, later known as Dwight Muhammad Qawi, to the light heavyweight title as he dethroned longtime champion Matthew Saad Muhammad. "I've had some strong fighters, like Briscoe," McCall said, "but Dwight is without a doubt the strongest of them all." But tragedy reared its head again as one of McCall's trainees, Freddie Acevedo, collapsed in a sparring session in June of 1985. McCall was working in Atlantic City during the incident, rushing back home to find Acevedo in a coma. His fighter later died of swelling to the brain. Later that year, McCall was diagnosed with cancer. "When they first told me I had cancer, I was devastated," McCall said, "but I finally decided I was going to fight." He underwent a series of chemotherapy treatments and extended hospital stays, but he managed to return to the gym in February of 1986. McCall made all of the preparations to make sure the gym stayed open, leaving the operations to his former fighter, Charlie Spicer. McCall died on August 22, 1986. He was 64 years old. The gym remained open after his death. "No trainer teaches a fighter everything the fighter knows," McCall said. "If he says he does, that's a lie. If a fighter is intelligent, he picks up things on his own and modifies what he has taught and uses it to best suit himself. You have to let him be himself."